There's no such thing as an atheist. There is only that person who is so alienated and ripped away from his or her God that they go around in anger.
When Victoria Mukherjee was a little girl, she and her mother took a whirlwind tour of the local churches every year on Good Friday. They were searching for God. At the end of the day, though, they always ended up disappointed because they didn't feel they had really connected in the way they had hoped. As an adult, Victoria studied cultural anthropology. She wanted to study the big questions and refused to accept the first answer that came her way. Her insistence on a second opinion resulted from her culturally divided upbringing.
My parents have different religions. My father is a Hindu, my mother is a Methodist. And at the time that they were raising a family, there was no community outside of our family. And there was no real consensus of who God was or what was right and wrong. I studied anthropology precisely because I had so many important questions. I have never been one to take one answer or one set of rules or one explanation for the important questions in life. So as an anthropologist, I would go and study another culture's belief system. Every religion on earth deals with the questions of man's relationship to man, man's relationship to nature, and man's relationship to God. That's what culture is about. We were put on this planet, and we created these constructions of culture. We created all of them, and we created the languages in which to express them. The big question is man's relationship to God.
Victoria Mukherjee describes herself as longing to know God from the time she was a young child. For her, the turning point came when she began teaching at a Christian college in Northern California. She found what she was looking for through the confidence in God displayed by her students.
If I didn't come to class, one would call and say, "Dr. Mukherjee, why aren't you here?" And I'd say, "Well, my little boy had asthma last night." And invariably, their answer would be, "I'll pray for him." Whew! I just blown away by that sort of love and concern. And also, the presumption, the good presumption, that there is a God and that they can speak to him, that he will listen and that he loves them. And pretty soon, there was no way I could avoid feeling that same line of communication. Experience the same loving safety of knowing God. When I first experienced God when I first knew God, it was like being 3 years old again and finally laying my sleepy head against the breast of my mother.
Many of Victoria's friends simply couldn't understand her decision.
The questions, the challenges that people make to me as a believer always entail the same adolescent questions. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about the existence of this? And if there was a God, he wouldn't let this happen. Well, that's very much like a teenager who blames the whole world on his parents, just longing for that parent to take control again and to prove and to earn the respect of that rebelling child. But it's not God's place to earn our respect. It's our place to grow up, to recognize, and to worship what is absolutely good, absolutely compassionate, absolutely the truth.
The ability to worship, to kneel in genuine surrender, can be very difficult for some people. It took Victoria 40 years to find her way to her knees. She compares her story to her favorite Bible story, that of a man named Lazarus.
In the story of Lazarus, he's dead. He knows the darkness of death. He knows the coldness of the grave. When he is resurrected by Christ, he is resurrected with the knowledge of coming from that coldness, that dark grave, into the light and the love of a living God. I feel like Lazarus. Life with God is really living. Life without God is the shadow of living.